Hello and welcome to Tools to Create a Better Life with myself, Glenyce Hughes. Thank you so much for being here. I am so incredibly grateful for every one of you. Oh my goodness. Judgment. What it really is doing. Yeah. Now, I talk about judgment a lot. There's all sorts of different radio shows you can search. If you didn't know, you can search on my webpage. You can actually go to the radio show section and just type in a word that you're looking for something about, and it will bring up all of the radio shows where I discuss that for the most part. And I'm not sure how many shows. I've pretty much done a weekly radio show since 2013. So we're looking at 8 years. That's a lot of years. So there's a lot of radio shows, and judgment is something, whether it's a radio show, a foundation class, anything, whatever it is, it often comes up because we have bought so many lies about judgment. We have been taught that judging is what's required to change something. I don't know about you, but that has not been my experience. The more I judge something, the more it stays that way. Yeah. So I had an experience a few weeks ago where a friend of mine shared on social media about how an animal, a dog, actually had been cut up, beaten up, whatever you want to call it, with a machete, and was in care and getting lots of, obviously, vet bills and such. And she was just saying, hey, you know, if anybody would like to contribute, here's the organization running it and taking care of the dog and all of that. And it really spurred me to take action with that. So for me personally, what I looked at was, what can I be and do different to change this? It just does not work for me for that to be on the planet. And whether we're talking animal or kids or elders or ourselves, or it doesn't matter, abuse, what is it going to take to change it? And so what I recognized in myself, and I really am just so grateful that for, I'm going to say probably one of the very first times, I was able to be present with it. So I didn't look at the pictures, things like that stay in my head, and I will see the picture of the dog, beaten up with a machete in my head and forever. So it just doesn't work for me. I get the pictures in my head anyway. I don't even need to see the photos, but I specifically don't look at the photos for the most part. And so I looked at, okay, so what is possible here that I've never even considered? And so in the past, what I would do is I would go into how horrible the person with the machete was, and how poor the poor victim dog was, and how awful it is, and let's kill that kid that did it. And I would have all of this judgment with the idea that that's actually what would change it. It isn't, my friends, it is not. Because what happens when I do that? So let's say in this case I would have done that. I'm sure many people who read about it and saw the post from the organization stuff, I'm sure many people went there. What that does is continues that energy of abuse on the planet. Shall I repeat that? When we judge, it continues the energy of whatever it is we're judging. So when you look in the mirror in the morning and you go, oh, I'm too fat, or I'm too thin, or I'm too tall, or I'm too short, or whatever the judgment is, you're going to create more of that. Yeah, so everything that brings up. Well, you destroy and uncreate it all, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD, shorts, boys, and beyonds. If you're new to my show, that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You can go to theclearingstatement.com for more information about how it works. just know for the rest of the show, it is like a magic wand. And so all the stuff that comes up, all the places we want to be right, all the places we want to say, no, this is horrible, this is wrong, those people should be killed, those, like whatever it is. All of that comes up when we run the clearing statement, it starts to dissipate it. Yeah. So rather than that judgment, rather than adding to the abuse on the planet, I really just looked at, okay, what can I be and do different to change this? Because I know judging isn't going to do it. Judging is going to create more of it. So what can I be and do different? So it was very light for me, very expansive for me to donate money to hashtag prayers for Parker. It was the dog that was his name, and so just to assist. So donated money there. I posted about it on Facebook, and I posted about it basically what I'm talking about here with regards to the judgment, because what I also know is that I didn't know about what judgment was, what was really going on when I was judging, until I got the information. That's when I started being more aware of it. So I have a very far reach on Facebook. I have, of course, a lot of Access Consciousness friends. A lot of you are probably hanging out with me on Facebook. That's awesome. Thank you. And I also have a lot of people I went to high school with, and people I went to college with, and family and other friends and people who know nothing about any of this that read my posts. That how many more people could I inspire to stop the judgment? So that was another hit that I had to do. There was a couple of energy things that I were really expansive to do, and really like continuing that energy of what can I be and do different to change this? Because we can really distract ourselves with judgment. We can really go into the rightness of, and that's one of the things I posted of, is I could have went into how horrible the person was and how awful they are and how they need to be punished or they need to be killed or whatever. And all that does is make me right and make me superior. Ta-da! I'm right, I'm superior. Yay me. What the fuck is that doing for consciousness? Nothing. Nothing. Right and superior take judgment. So when we get people to align and agree with us about something, when we, phone our friend and say how horrible this is, or we share something on Facebook and just say how horrible this is, what are we doing for consciousness? Nothing. Nothing. Everything that brings up, lead, destroy, and uncreate at all times a godzillion. Whew. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, butt box, shorts, boys, and beyonds. A friend of mine, and she might have heard it from Gary and Dane, who are the founders of Access Consciousness. I'm not sure, but I heard her say it a lot. And she would ask to herself, like, what have I done for consciousness today? And it's something that I started taking on and started asking myself, and not from the place of judgment, because that's not doing anything for consciousness, as we've been talking about, but really from just this, like, what have I done for consciousness today? Like, what have I done for it? And you could turn it into, like, what can I be and do different to contribute to consciousness? Like, you can play with it a lot, but really start to recognize that we're not here just to struggle and have problems and to have friends that have the same problems so we can sit around and talk about the problems and judge the rest of the world and make sure we're right. And oh my God, that's not what I'm here for. Maybe you are, but I know that I am not here for that. I am here to contribute to consciousness on the planet. And what have we done for consciousness today, my sweet friends? So by me in that moment, not doing what I've done in the past of needing to be right and superior about animal abuse, and just even that choice alone, if I had done nothing else, that choice alone, what did that do for consciousness? Yeah, a lot. And then add to it the willingness to be aware of what else I could be and do. So, I told you that I, did the donation. That I'm not saying that because donations are right. I was just aware when I asked that question that it would create more to do it in that instance. So this is the other thing with questions, guys, is we want to be really aware of what we're actually, if we have made a decision about what the answer is, because if that's the case, you want to clear that. You want to destroy and uncreate it, and then truly ask the question from curiosity of like, what could I be and do different today to change this? It may not be donating, okay? So I just want to make sure you guys know that when we ask that question, it could be a billion things. It could have showed up to, I don't know, to help the kid out who was going to get charged with the abuse or whatever. Like, there's so many different possibilities with it. If we're truly curious, those possibilities will show up. We will become aware of what we can be and do different. And of course, what can we be different? That's not really a logical response. But even just asking it, what can I be and do, two together, what can I be and do different to change this? The moment you ask that question, you're gonna be what's required to change it. So the being isn't something, again, tangible or logical usually. You could, in my case, it was, okay, well, don't be judgmental, of course that, but there's so much more to that. But make sure you ask the two together. What can I do and be to change? What can I be and do different to change this? Now, we're talking about a pretty big thing in lots of our worlds, animal abuse, but it could be that you want to have more flexibility in your hips. What can I be and do different to change this? You might be interested in having more money in your bank account. What can I be and do different to change this? Like, it's a brilliant question to use in so many different ways. Yeah, so all the different ways that you haven't been willing to be the question of what you can be and do different to change whatever it is you'd like to change. Will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD, POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Yeah. So what judgment really does is it continues the thing we're judging, whatever it is, continues the experience, the situation, the whatever. It also, and this is a tough one for a lot of people, it adds evil on the planet. Yeah, I know. So it's actually in the foundation manual. There's just one sentence about this, and I always really point it out in my foundation classes because I really, really, really get that people need to really, really, really start acknowledging what they're doing when they're playing with judgment. And hashtag get your butt to foundation. I've got one starting here, depending on when you're listening, right away at the February 24th to the 28th, 2021. And then, of course, if you're listening later, I have other ones. So just check it out. Email me, gosh, I can't think of that word. Private message me on Facebook, private message me on Instagram, smoke signal me. I'll get you the link to whatever ones I've got coming up. But it is a class that can change so much for you, especially with regards to judgment. But Gary has in the manual that when we do judgment, we are adding evil to the planet. This is how much power and potency is in judgment. We're adding evil. So isn't it time to stop the judgment? And here's the thing. You're the only one who can do it for you. I'm the only one who can do it for me. So it really becomes where you, one, have to recognize it's a choice. Most of us don't like to know that. It's like, no, I didn't have a choice. It was just too big. It was just so much. It just happened that I spent 12 hours judging me. No, I chose to spend 12 hours judging me. So it's a choice. and recognize and be honest with you about what it's really doing, because it's not creating the future you desire. I'm pretty sure. You know what? I shouldn't speak for you, but I know for me, adding evil to the planet is not creating the future I desire. So really, really, really start to pay attention to the judgment that you're playing with. It's not yours anyway. Okay, who does it belong to? This is a tool that you learn in Access Bars, actually. And you might have not even taken Access Bars, but it's a tool that we talk about a lot. Who does it belong to? Return to sender with consciousness attached. We are so incredibly psychic and aware, my sweet friends. And a lot of times what's going on in our heads, like 98% of the time, what's going on in here, or even in our bodies or our bank accounts or blah, 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 isn't ours. We become aware of it, and then we play with it as though it's ours. Whew. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And one of the suggestions with the tool, who does it belong to, is that for 3 days, ask, who does it belong to for every thought, feeling, and emotion and insanity in your world? For 3 days straight, ask that question. And you will create so much space in your world, my sweet friends, so much space. You'll also start to realize how much is not yours. And I remember back in 2015, I went to India for a 7-day event with Gary, and it's a kind of a free-form type of class, and they're called 7day events. And for the first 3 or 4 days, well, he did it the whole time, but it took me a few days to catch on to what was going on. Somebody would go up to the microphone to talk to him about a problem they had, and they would say, blah, 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 and he would say, is it yours? And they'd go, and they'd go sit down. And the next person would go up and say, I have this problem, blah, 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 blah. And he'd say, is it yours? And they'd go, well, and he'd say, is it? Nope. They'd go sit down. This went on person after person after person after person, like on. And I finally realized, now by this time I would have been playing with the tools for 4 years. I had a lot of experience with the who does it belong to tool. I'd done it for 3 days in a row. I knew the space it created. But it wasn't until that class, it wasn't until seeing every person who had their problem, like what you would say very unique to them, their very own problem, wasn't their problem. It wasn't their problem. So even if you have something from 22 years ago, it's not yours. Return to sender with consciousness, but it's become valuable to play with it as though it's yours. Maybe you have something you can talk about with friends and family because you have this money problem or this relationship problem or this problem with your boss, whatever it is, and it's not yours. And if you're willing to choose the ease and the joy and the glory that's available to you, that tool is such a brilliant tool, because even when I look at the points of views that I've had about animal abuse over the years, like truly, who does it belong to? Return to sender with consciousness. So yes, I am aware that it doesn't create greater on the planet. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But the judgment that those people should be killed and they're horrible, like all that's not mine. That doesn't feel like me at all. The awareness it doesn't create more, absolutely. All the ick around it, no. So really looking again at judgment and what it's creating. And so those things that are going on in your mind when you look in the mirror, when you look at your bank account, when you, are talking with your friend about how horrible somebody is because of whatever, is that even yours? Are any of those yours? Or are you just so aware of the insanity on this planet that you've bought it as yours? You've made it yours. right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD, POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And so what else then? So this to me is where we actually can really recognize that we have so much more available. Because when we get out of the trauma drama, when we get out of the problems, when we get out of the judgment, we go into the creation. We go into the possibilities. We go into, what can I be and do different to change this? So we've went away from problem where there's nowhere to go. When you're in problem, you're just going to create more problems, right? It's the same as judgment. It takes judgment to have a problem. So it's that same energy. I've got this problem and this problem and this problem, this problem and this problem. You get it. Rather, what if we look instead of, okay, so what's it going to take to change it? What can I be and do different to change it? Now we're putting our creation capacities into motion. This is where we excel, my sweet friends. This is magic. This going down this road where there's possibilities, where there's wondering, where there's curiosity, where there's action, that is going to create the future you desire. The judgment, the problems, this kind of what I call the hamster wheel energy, that's never ever going to create the future we desire. It's just going to create more of the same. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of the same. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD, POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Yeah. Now, another tool, and again, if you've hung around me for a while, you've heard me talk about this before, and you'll never hear me not talk about it, the tool of interesting point of view. And I talk about it all the time because it works so well with judgment. When you are judging something, let's say you hear me talk about a dog being beat up with a machete, and you go into all sorts of judgment and wrongness and all of that. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Over and over and over until it has no energy. And here's the thing. We are going to always be aware of what doesn't create greater. So you're never ever going to hear about animal abuse or child abuse or elder abuse or abuse and think, oh, gosh darn, that's great to hear. That's never ever going to happen. I mean, gosh darn. Anyway, not sure who I was being there, but anyway, that's just it's never going to be. You're always going to be aware that that doesn't create greater. So what you want to make sure is that awareness that that doesn't create greater doesn't go into judgment. Because that's, I would say, what occurs the most is we become aware that something doesn't create greater, and then the next thing is the judgment of it. That's where we need to stop. Aware it doesn't create greater. What can I be and do different to change it? Now, maybe you don't catch yourself and you go into the wrongness of it for a little while. Fine. The moment you recognize you're in judgment, stop. What can I be and do different to change this? And another great question, and this is from Dr. Dane here, and it's kind of a funny worded question, but I love it. If I knew not this, what else might be possible? If I knew not this, what else might be possible? So it's kind of a twist on it, a different way to ask what else is possible, to acknowledge what is, but also not solidify it. If I knew not this, and it can be a few things. If I knew not this, what else might be possible? If I knew not this, what other magic is available? If I knew not this, what other magic could I be? Like, you can play with that. But if I knew not this, that piece to me is like kind of a, wait a minute, okay, this is, And if I knew not this. If I knew not this. And for anyone just listening, for some reason I've been like snapping my fingers if you're wondering what that noise is. So I think I'll stop that now. But anyway, so, a few different ways to look at that. But the number one tool with all of it is interesting point of view. I have this point of view. So if you look in the mirror and you go to judgment, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. If you hear something on the radio, the news, whatever, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. What you want to do is you want to get out of the points of views so then you can be the infinite awareness you truly be. Because anytime you're judging or using a point of view like that, you're limiting what you're aware of. That's why a lot of times when we hear about animal abuse or child abuse or elder abuse, is we go, oh, no, that can't be. That person would never do that to that person, or that would never happen. Or it's because we've got all these blinders on, and anything we're not willing to receive, we put a blinder on. Yeah. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, papak, shorts, boys, and beyond. So all the blinders that you've put on, rather than just be the infinite awareness that you truly be, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, papak, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And then, what can I be and do different to change this? So whatever it is that you can be and do different to change, whatever it is, all the things you'd like to change, anything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, receive that, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, podpoc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for being here, my sweet friends. If you're watching this on video, you can click the link to all the upcoming awesomeness that I've got. And if you are listening and would like that link, just reach out and I will be happy to share it with you. I have a weekly email that goes out with all of the awesomeness, but also a weekly video that's there for you to enjoy, and it has my weekly radio show link too. So thank you, and I look forward to playing again next week.